How do you deal with shame and guilt and regrets in midlife? This is one of the hardest things that I believe we face, in our late 40s, 50s, and 60s. The feelings of shame that we might carry, the feelings of guilt and of regret. And if you're new here, my name is Janet. Welcome to the Second Act Collective, where we talk about all things to do with womanhood in your midlife. So, in regards to this topic of shame and regrets and the emotions that we seem to just all suffer through a lot of times in silence. Most women, especially, are suffering with shame and they have all these regrets and they feel all this guilt and they don't have anyone to talk to about. We don't share that with our friends, we don't share that with family because we don't really feel like we can openly discuss the things that we're going through. So I'm going to talk about some examples of, what brings shame and what brings guilt and regrets in our lives and how we can move past to really enter the second act, this second chapter of our lives in a way that we are free, because we are looking for freedom. We're in a place where we don't want to carry the things that we've carried with us for years and years. But a lot of times, and I've gone through some of this myself, but and even from talking to other women, a lot of times there's a lot of shame that we experience in our late 40s. And that could be because of the mistakes that we made a lot of times. So the shame and regret is kind of combined. You feel shame that maybe financially you're not where you're supposed to be, or maybe your relationship didn't work out as it should be and you went through a divorce or separation or something. And these are things that carry shame that people don't know or understand. The fact that something failed in your life that you thought was going to be forever or that you thought was going to work out a certain way and it didn't. And we tend to carry that shame, and it's a shame we do not discuss with anyone. Right? We might have made financial mistakes and we are in our 50s and we realize, oh my gosh, I don't have enough savings for retirement. I'm going to need to work hard. I'm going to need to work some more, like all these things. And there's so much shame with that because you're like, oh, I should have been in this place at this time in my life. I should have done this. I should have done this. And there's a lot of should haves. And because you didn't hit those should haves, there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of shame in how we look and how we even feel about ourselves. So we carry this body shame because we don't look the way we thought we were going to look when we're at this age. Maybe you have the belly, maybe you've gained a lot of weight and you're struggling with all this shame. There's shame concerned with just towards your own body. Right? So there's shame for failed relationship. There's shame for failed even businesses or careers. Maybe you got laid off and you don't, not necessarily that it was your fault, but, they were just restructuring and now you are unemployed, you're looking for a job and you're thinking, I'm in my 50s or 60s, where am I going to get a job? Well, I'm going to start over, right? Because this thing that is in the second chapter where you're being forced to start over and you might not necessarily want to start over, it brings a lot of shame that you lost your job. There's a lot of shame, again, with your body, a lot of shame of even businesses, right? So maybe you had a business that you had to close because things didn't go as well as you thought they would. Maybe you've suffered a loss in the business and there's all this shame because and I think that a lot of the shame comes because we ourselves have expectations on what we thought things should look like when we're in our 50s and 60s. So there's a shame of what people think of us or what they're thinking when they look at us and how they feel sorry for us. And nobody wants anybody's pity, right? We don't want that from anyone. But you sense that sometimes people make comments about you where you can tell there's pity in there. And that makes you feel, ashamed. Your own expectations about where you should have been, what you should have achieved by now can bring shame, which just weighs on you. And so we all these different things that can bring shame to us because of the things that we have failed, the expectations of ourselves or of other people that we failed to live up to. And these are really deep-seated things that I believe a lot of women, from just talking to other women, that are there, because there's like, oh, if I had done this, or if I hadn't done this, or if I, even people who maybe took time to be with their kids, to raise their kids, and, as housewives, and which is the greatest job, I think, the most difficult and the greatest job, to raise another human. I have 3 kids of myself. I have 3 kids, so I know what it's like. But you talk to women who have maybe been stay-at-home moms, and they feel like financially they've never added anything to the family, which I don't know how people even, I don't know why women are made to feel that way, because if somebody was not at home with those kids, then the finances would actually be worse, right? I mean, we've all seen research on this, how much it costs to raise children if you're going to pay for someone else to do it. But women are made to feel this, right? They're made to feel that the choices that they made, especially concerning their children, has made them a failure in life because they're not producing money, they're not bringing money home. And people carry shame because of that. They feel like, so someone will say, oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. Like, why is there a word just in there? It's because they've been made to feel shame, by people's comments and looks, whatever. So we all carrying. So it doesn't matter whether you had a business and it failed. Doesn't matter whether you had a career and it failed. The shame is in everybody, in every situation. So women tend to carry this a lot, right? So we are all carrying this shame for things, the choices that we made that maybe didn't turn out the way we thought, or the choices that we made thinking they were the best choice for us at that season, and then you're made to feel guilty and shame about it. And I'm here to talk about that, the fact that we shouldn't have to carry this shame. And first and foremost, because God doesn't want any of us to carry shame with us, even if we made a mess, even if we've made the business mistake, the career mistake, the money mistake, even if we've gained the weight because we're eating too much or whatever. We are not to carry the shame. We're not to carry guilt. And the guilt comes a lot of times because we might be now in our second chapter in a place where we want to do things for ourselves. We have sacrificed so much for everybody for so long and put our own needs and desires aside so that, the family, the children can be tended to. So you could maybe support your spouse or whatever it is that you're doing, that you sacrifice your own hobbies, you sacrifice your own desires, you sacrifice a lot. And when you are now like, okay, now everybody's out of the home, I want to do something for myself. I want to travel. I want to, I want to experience life in a different way and just do things for you. You'd be amazed the amount of guilt that people feel, even about that. The fact that you desire to do something or want to do something for yourself, there can be a lot of guilt. Like you feel guilty that you want to do it. And then other people can heap on the guilt that why do you want to do this now? Because they've depended on you for so long. They've, taken from you for so long. They don't even want you to go and experience anything for yourself anymore because you've just been the anchor for everybody. So a lot of women have guilt about the things that they would want to do. And then they feel like, oh, maybe I can't do that. There are people who want to do solo travel because now their kids are out of the home and they'll feel bad about that because they feel like, well, maybe my spouse, would need me, or what about family members? What about this? So it seems like then there's never a time you can fully do anything for yourself because you're always needed by somebody. And anytime you want to do something for yourself, you feel bad about it. You feel bad spending money on yourself. You feel guilty about spending money on yourself. You feel guilty. Like it's a no-win situation because it's either there's shame or there's guilt. So it's like you can't win. And a lot of women find themselves there in a place where they feel they cannot win. And let's talk about regrets, right? And regrets are a lot to do with the failures, the things that we feel we felt, the mistakes, the decisions we made that might have put us in a place where we are now suffering because of it. And boy, do we all have regrets, right? We all have regrets about the things that were done, the choices we made, or the things we said or did, whatever. We have all these regrets that in the second act, in the second chapter of our lives, a lot, they're just weighing down on us. And I totally believe that as we are if you're entering, transitioning into this year, in your second chapter, these are things, emotions we need to deal with. First and foremost, it has to be confronted, right? We actually have to confront them to admit this is how I feel. And for me, it's going before God and saying, this is what I truly feel here about this, the shame that I have, the guilt, that whatever emotions I'm carrying, and really pouring that out to God and saying, God, this is how I feel. So being honest about how you feel is important, and speaking it out that you feel this and that and this, I think is the first step to any healing and to anything that would happen for you to move forward. Because you don't want to build, because in this second chapter, we're trying to build our lives in a way that is intentional, in a way that we are really designing for this phase of our life and season of our life. And we don't want to carry all that baggage from the past with us, the shame, the guilt. We don't want to carry that. So be honest with yourself about how you feel. If it means journaling about it, praying about it, do something so that you get these things out of you. And then realizing that God says to us, forget the former things and look at the new thing that I'm doing. And I think that's in Isaiah. I can't remember what chapter, but I think it's chapter 54. But it says, do not remember the things of the past. It's like a command, do not. Right? So whatever mistakes we've made, whatever decisions we've made in the past, we are commanded to let that go. And this is where we let go and let God be God. If he's willing to forgive us, why are we still holding on to things? Or why do you even care that other people are still holding on to things? So it's us really forgetting the past and asking, if you've made the mistakes, you correct what needs to be corrected. You ask for forgiveness where you need to ask for forgiveness. You forgive yourself as well, because that's another thing. One of the things that hold us back is the not being able to forgive ourselves. So we are stuck with the shame, with the guilt, with the whatever, because we cannot forgive ourselves. So we need to do that, to forgive ourselves, to let go, to forget that past, to forget that person, the decisions you made when you were that person. It's because you were that person, and with the knowledge that you had at that time, you made certain decisions. Yes, they didn't turn out to be the greatest, but you made those kind of decisions because of who you were at that time, and that's not who you are anymore. So forgiving ourselves, letting go, and really forgetting the past and saying, I'm moving on to the new thing that God has for me, is the way to go. And then asking God, what is the next way forward? Because what I can tell you is that God is not in heaven pacing, surprised that you are where you are, or feeling the way you feel, or that these situations in your life are happening. He's not at all. He's not worried about it. He's not pacing back and forth about it. So that tells me whatever mess you and I have made, whatever mistakes we have made, we don't have to carry the shame. And because Jesus carried all the shame for us anyway, why are we carrying something that he took over from us? But also the fact that God has a plan. He has a billion plus plans of how to redirect and realign your life to where you can really walk into what he has for you in this season. So it's trusting God, right? We have let go. Now we trust God to make things work for our good. Because on our own, of course, we cannot. We can't even figure out how. Sometimes we're in so much mess. We can't even look and see how can this be fixed. But God is a way of fixing things. So trusting God to fix the things in our lives that feel like they're destroyed, that there's no hope. It's us just trusting God to do what he does best, which is him being God and fixing things that that we can figure out. And he doesn't want us figuring things out by ourselves. So, which is very comforting that, we can bring all the junk and say, here's the mess I've made. Please help me, Lord, and fix this mess for me. But my whole point in this discussion I'm having with you is that we are to let go of the shame. We are to let go of the guilt and the regret so we can really move forward in the second chapter with a free heart, free minds, and really walk in the freedom. Because the freedom is not, a lot of times we're going after financial freedom, but if there's no freedom in your soul, if you are still a captive of shame and guilt and whatever, you are not going to go far. And you're not going to enjoy that money either. So when the Bible talks about prospering our souls, like God is, he wants us to prosper as our soul prospers, that everything starts within. And we want our souls to prosper, and they cannot prosper if it is full of shame and guilt and regrets. So I'm not trying to preach to you. I'm just saying this is the thing that I've noticed in myself, in the women that I've talked to, in their 40s and 50s and 60s. People have a lot of these emotions in them, and they're holding us back. And I don't want you to be held back. I don't want myself to be held back. So let's get rid of this. Let's address this and become the person that God wants us to become in this second chapter. You and I can do this. This is not too hard for God. It's simply us living a very surrendered life and allowing him to do what he does. So we have to let go. We have to then seek what is the next thing that he has for us, for him to show us. And then walk boldly into that with no shame, with no, because Jesus already carried that for us. So I don't need to carry my shame. I don't need to carry anything from my past, no matter how bad it was. Because Jesus already, carried that for me. So if you're new here, again, my name is Janet, and this is the Second Act Collective. And I would love for you to subscribe and join our community on Substack. The link is below. And please put on the notification bell so that you'll be notified when I upload these videos. But we talk about things to do with womanhood in midlife here on this channel. So see you next time.